All right, Coach just let me know that I had this thing scheduled for a totally different time zone, so it was all screwed up. So thanks, Coach, for letting me know about that, brother.
No worries. It's good to see. I'm glad you survived the weekend. I saw you running on about 3.5 hours of sleep to get back to that little human. So mad respect for you both getting there, doing all that you did, and then getting back, not doting all over you, but that's a brutal 72 hours.
Oh yeah, dude. Because especially on race day, like the media guys in general, because you're there. Some of those guys there at like 8 a.m. and then the final press conference didn't go off until like 10:30 at night, right? And
Yeah.
I go back to the media scrub tent, and all these guys with Racer X and Swamp Moto and them, they're all still editing on their stuff, and I was like, I can't do this, guys. I gotta leave. And
Yeah.
then we got Robbie in the house with 23 Media. What's up, brother?
Oh, very cool. Good to
Yeah,
see you,
yeah.
Robbie.
Yeah, no, they're I think he wasn't able to go there with his brother because he was sick. I think they had a pretty fast trip too, because they went, I think, just 4 hours. They just drove, which was kind of nice.
Yeah.
I would have liked to drive, but yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about. So much to talk about. And honestly, like, Coach, literally 45 minutes before this started, I was like, hey, I've got this segment that we're going to talk about between Deegan and Joe and why everybody is so up in roar about aggressive riding. And I'm kind of celebrating it in a little bit, which is ironic because I'm all like safety, right? But we'll talk about it. But I was on the phone with Zach Osborne this morning because I was like, hey, Zach, dude, you'd be the perfect guy to come on and give your opinion about what the fuck happened because of what happened with you in Vegas, and how people celebrated you freaking just cleaning out Joey Savacci and then getting fined 10 grand and winning the championship, a big bonus, but he was like, dude, I think he said he was sick. So he said that he couldn't talk. So
Yeah.
it would be, but he would have loved to come on. I'm like, hey, dude,
Well,
mad
think about
respect
this.
and sorry for bothering you right away.
You're onto something really, really big because most everybody talks about Joey, from Osborne going from last to first in the last turn. And it was the ultimate takeout move. And as the old saying goes, right, it is not a good move if you both go down. It's textbook perfect the way he hit Savacci. Savacci's bike loops on. Thank goodness it didn't hold on to Zach's bike. Zach takes off. I think what people are forgetting about is the 450 race that night. You had Dungey.
Yeah. Coach here. Look at this. That's
Go for it.
exactly perfect segue. Boss,
Okay.
perfect segue. Because
there is so much meat on the bone on this 450 compared to what happened this weekend. I don't want to get ahead of what you may have in place. I've got a couple of scenarios for you I want to run by you.
Well, it was just that, okay? Because the dynamic is Deegan. We have some comments here as far as diaper boy and blah, blah, blah. The dynamic with Deegan and his strategy and watching those guys on the line and talking to them both on the podium between Joe and Deegan, it was like almost an entertainment deal, right? Where both of them were actually friends, but in front of the cameras, it was like, oh yeah, I'm going to kick your effing ass, man. And then what Joe said was epic at the press conference. And I want everybody to know that the 7 Deuce was the guy that asked the question there, and he's not getting enough credit for that because that was a baller question. And I guess I'll talk a little bit about the press conference too, because I was rather upset with the press conference. But Here, coach, I'm just spewing stuff.
No, you're onto the you're. I was going to make a comment that's going to come across the wrong way, but you hit the bullseye here. Tomac has to win. Dungey has to get 5th or better. In this race, he's got Josh Grant as his teammate. Dunge's got Muscan. Unfortunately, Muscan goes down. If you watch this from the very beginning, 2 minutes in, Tomac smashes Dunge and tries to take him out. And this is like 2.5 minutes in, right from the very beginning. So when you hear people online saying, hey, the cardinal rule is you don't take somebody out in the first couple laps, well, tell that to Tomac. Tomac smashes him right here. Boom. Now, he doesn't like smash him, but he's definitely letting him know, I'm trying to do everything I can.
That's aggressive riding. That's almost no different than what Deegan was doing with the brake check.
Yep.
But
now, the difference is Dunge knew it was coming. So if you watch Dunge, he sits up. Now, if you watch the timer right there, right? So right there, when
Tomac, that is the total clean out move. That's Dungey being heads up. Because do you see how Dungey foot dabs?
Sits up. Yep.
Because if he didn't do that, he would have been on the ground.
But he stalls the bike, has to roll it backwards. He goes from first to third, right? Now, that's only 2.5 minutes in. Now, when you get here, now hit pause for a second, Johnny, because we have to set the context. What's interesting here is Tomac has Josh Grant as a teammate. Dunge has Muscan. Muscan at this point has gone down, is in the mechanics area. Dunge has nobody to help him. If you watch in the next 2 minutes, when there's about 5 minutes left on the clock, the top 5 guys are all on the same straightaway. So you've got Tomac, Dunge, Josh Grant, Anderson, and then you have Reed, who's riding Yamaha at this time. So think about this. Tomac has Josh. Dungey has nobody. He's hoping, now he's got Jason Anderson, who's in the hunt there because he's on Husky. And then Chad Reed comes in. And if you remember this year, Chad and Ryan had some beef. So the big question was, oh gosh, does Reed come in and take out Dunge? Which would be exactly what Tomac needs. Now, where you're at on the time right here, not much is going to happen. And it dawns on Tomac, he's got to do something himself because it's not happening. Go ahead, bud.
Yeah.
What's your thought?
And what's cool is here, I want to highlight some of the guys that are in the chat. So, hey, by the way, thanks everybody for joining the chat. If you're here, hit that subscribe button, man. The algorithm loves it. And the algorithm helps me out. So, yeah, just if you're here, just do that. And as soon as I said that, I lost 9 people in the chat. So, all right. But Michael says, is it really fair to point fingers at the riders when the format of the championship, track designs, and juicy paydays? Yes. And this is what I kind of started on my Instagram with a conversation as far as what's the difference between a cash grab, dash for cash type race and a professional championship. Because even... Here, let me go back to this. We'll even going to the press conference, Jet said, dude, I love the SMX because it's a 3 race and I get a championship bonus at the end. And it's like, wow. So it almost makes you think maybe we should tie that bonus into the entire series and then actually have the SMX be the primary championship, not the supercross and motocross and then this added deal. Have it just all be one for 33 races.
Maybe I misunderstood that. I thought he got a bonus for Supercross, a bonus for motocross, and a bonus for SMX. Are you saying that's not the case?
No, that is the case. But he didn't get the bonus for Supercross because he was injured, right? He won.
But if he had,
yes, correct. So but on the podium, he said that he loves the SMX format because he only has to race 3 races as opposed to 17 or what is it, 11 now for motocross to get
a total of 31 going in.
And then we also have Chris Horton saying people celebrate takeouts getting into the main event from the LCQ. Good point. But everyone loses their freaking mind when Deegan does it for a championship. Everyone downplays how many times Joe took shots at Deegan.
Well, and this is what makes that video that you have on 2017, because if you look, Tomac realizes there's less than 5 minutes left, and he goes and he runs away with the race and he wins by 10 seconds because he was way faster than Dunge. So all of a sudden it dawns on him, he slows down. Now, this is where Tomac shows his incredible, racecraft. With 1 lap to go, with 4 corners to go, he slows down, lets Dunge pass him. comes in the next corner and just blows him.
Oh yeah.
Just
Hold on.
blows
Here's
him.
Anderson.
This is Anderson taking Reed out. So now Dunge has just lost, Tomac has just lost his biggest ally because Anderson is riding for Husqvarna here. So you've got the KTM peer group. Dunge has an ally. Tomac has Grant and Reed. Reed just gets taken out by Anderson. So Tomac pauses. Dunge goes.
He lets him.
Now watch him in the next corner. He smashes the shit out of him. Hopes that he can get around. Grant goes through the inside. Anderson goes for the win. And now Dunge is sitting in 4th place, crossing the finish line, and he loses the championship by 5 points. Tomac does. Now, Johnny, let me propose something to you. How much different would that hit have been if it was double points?
Would have been everything.
I don't think Dunge would have gotten, Dunge would be picking himself up off the ground because, yes, Tomac pushed him up. And if you go back early in the race, Johnny, I think it was they're only like 2.5 minutes in. Tomac pushes Dunge completely off the track. And I know you're really big on the fact that they shouldn't accelerate. And if you watch, there's a plume of dust behind Dunge where he looks like he hauls ass and goes to the inside.
Coach, so we have another comment by Tony B. Deegan went after Joe 5 or 6 times, but never once succeeded. It was by design. That was inherently by design. He knew that he didn't want to get penalized because if he would have gotten penalized, he's kind of losing the championship there too. But I also had an individual here. I'll have to try to, I probably can't put it up because of the fact that I'm streaming on Instagram as well right now. But I had an individual was like, hey, have you ever thought about, they both had like 157 points. And if Deegan was to win and Joe was to get 3rd or so, even with a 5-point penalty, Deegan still would have won. So it made sense for him to try to block pass him, take him out, do something, because even with a penalty, he would have been able to win.
But I think it's bigger than that, Johnny. I think Deegan's hoping that Joe doesn't finish because Deegan's smart enough to realize, okay, every time, and we can get into the idea that they should have black flagged him. I've seen a lot of that circulating around. But Deegan realizes, okay, I'm already on probation. I'm going to get docked X amount of points, right? He's got to make sure that the spread's big enough that even with him getting docked points, it's still going to be enough with the triple point format. So he's hoping he can just essentially do to Joe what he did to himself, unfortunately. Yeah. Now, before we go any further, isn't it interesting that Tomac slowed the race down? He took 3 pops at Dungy, takes a really big pop shot at the end. 4 guys goes around him, and Dunge wins the championship by 5 points right here. So he pushes him out. Now there goes Anderson on the inside. Josh Grant goes by him, and now Tomac is there. If Reed was still there, and Reed and Dunge had already had some beef, this was early in the race. So that's where he stalls it. He has to roll it backwards, and this allows Anderson to get into second. Now here's Reed. This is where Anderson retaliates and just runs him into the blocks. If Reed was able to get through that, and you have Tomac pushing him up in that last corner, 3 turns from the finish.
Well, and Tomac literally let Dungy by here.
Yeah, he pauses right here, lets him go, and Dunge immediately knows it because he looks over, checks up, but then Tomac just hangs out there for a second. There goes 2 guys on the inside, and if Reed was right behind Grant, Dunge gets 5th. Tomac wins the championship. No, I take that back. He had to get 5th or better. So he would have been, but he won the championship by 5 points that day. Nobody's calling for Tomac's head on a block. Nobody's saying Tomac's an asshole. Everybody's like, wow, Tomac did what he had to do, because if we go back and you watch that race, you have the gate drop, Tomac's gone. Tomac's way faster than everybody. Dunge keeps him in tow. Then all of a sudden, and I've already said this twice, so I apologize, it's redundant. It dawns on Tomac, even if I win the race, he's looking back and sees Dunge's in second. What's the big deal? He's got to change up the race or there's no way he wins. He's hoping that Josh Grant can help him. He knows he's got Anderson in the mix. You can't tell me that Tomac doesn't see Reed on that blue bike coming in and he's like, yes, I've got my chance. I've got the opportunity for 4 dudes to get in between us if I push him up high. Well, then what he doesn't know is that Anderson takes him out in at the beginning of the last lap, because that's literally where it was. It was the beginning of the
Anderson ends up winning that race,
Anderson wins it, and this is what's so cool. When you stop and you think about that,
he wins by what Tomac does right here.
Yeah, he wins because Anderson goes on the inside. Josh Grant comes right behind him. Tomac calls the ass. Of course, Josh Grant lets him go. And then Dunge ends up 4th, wins by 5 points. But can you imagine if it was triple points? So the whole scenario changes. And this is the same night that Zach Osborne sawed off Joey Savacci's front wheel in the last corner.
Yeah, and it was
What a
completely
night.
celebrated. He
Yeah.
did get like a 10 grand fine, but you
Yeah.
know,
For
I
$1 million
forget
bonus.
what
That's a
Osborne
good
told me
ROI.
as far as what the
Well, think
Husky
about this
bonus
though,
was.
Johnny, and I'm going to show my age here. Think about when Matasevich and Bradshaw, I mean, they beat the living daylights out of each other. It was T-Bone City. They would jump over the, remember what, I can't remember what race it was. It was a right-hand turn, and Matasevich just goes to the inside and just launches his bike and just destroys Bradshaw into the wall on the side of the stadium
Yeah,
because
I don't
Bradshaw,
remember that.
oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. How many times have you seen Bradshaw and Matasevich either T-bone, ghost ride, or just completely run right into the rear end of them? And again, I know you made a very good comment. What's the difference between dash for cash, as this gentleman said in the chat room? What's the difference between that and an LCQ, last corner takeout? But I go back to Bradshaw and Matasevich, and I'm like, nobody bitched about that. We all thought that. Now, some people, it was like, knock me down, pick me up, knock me down, pick me up racing. But yeah, it's a different time.
Yeah, coach. And then, even read some of my comments. It's been funny with everyone giving me a hard, not everyone, but certain people giving me a hard time for my comment at the press conference with asking all of them like, hey, there's a lot of money on the line. Are you guys going to brake check, block pass,
Yeah.
take each other out for it? And what, a little bit of premonition, what actually happened? Everything that I asked them happened, right?
Came to fruition.
And
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that both Jason Thomas and Jason Wygant, when I was at that press conference, was like, great question, Johnny. And I was like, well, appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if there's a whole lot of validity in that, but yeah, I'll take it, guys. I'll take it. And then they spun off of what I said, and they started asking the riders like, hey, well, yeah, are you guys worried about this with being on probation and all this stuff? It's like, come on, cool. Get that conversation started, because that's what people want to know. This is what we're here for. This is a dash for cash race here. Like, let's do it.
Credit to Brian. Like he said, Tomac, I guess, did get quite a bit of pushback, but we tend to have amnesia when it comes to that stuff, especially with certain riders. I think if we were to ask the chat, give me 3 things that Freezy's done in the last 10 years, and we'll get 100 different examples. Tomac was kind of, he got some pushback on it, like Brian said, but then it faded pretty quickly. And like Arctic Cac said, I agree. Bikes were much slower back then, much lighter. So it was a different game.
Jaden, he says, yeah, no shit. It was just a dumb question because it's pretty obvious they were going to do that. When was the last time people have asked them about that? Never.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Right.
And how cool was it
that, it was pretty
Deegan
obvious.
said, how cool is it? Then Deegan said, what would you do, Johnny?
Yeah,
I loved it. I loved it. That was awesome. And again, this is what I love.
The first time he was running a Meta Militia kit too. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and some people hated that. I was like, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty nostalgia.
Yeah. That's a total just pat on your back from your dad.
Props,
I thought that was representing it. NC Moto Fever says, yeah, we need more dumb questions. Like, exactly. Yeah. I get.
Well, isn't it funny that a dumb question, quote unquote, dumb question gets the most replays? People say it's dumb because it's unorthodox. It's not the traditional, how do you like to track? How do you like the thickness of your seat foam? How do your grips feel? Do your pegs feel well? How do your Dunlops hook up on the grate?
And coach, like, when I was talking to all the media guys there and everything, because the crowd there just went wild, because you were in the middle of Fan Fest is what it was. And I'm like, that's exactly what a press conference should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it should be brought on, but there was no Steve wasn't there, lots of the media guys were stuck there. So I was ready to ask 4 or 5 questions because nobody was going to do it. But, they had a minor issue with the generator overheating, which has never happened before. In talking with Supercross, they were rather disgusted with that happening, and because it's never happened all year long. It's like, okay, you guys get a pass after with at least since they're both together, 33, 31 racing. So, but the goal of mine is making that kind of stuff standard, right? So that the riders are prepared to let loose a little bit. where they don't feel like they're going to get so much pushback from the manufacturers or their sponsors by sitting there. And like what Joe said on the podium, let us know what Deegan said to you. That stuff, yes, it's sensationalism, but dude, that highlight reels, right? Talking to a lot of the NBC guys and everything, they're going, hey, if you don't give us sound bites, it's hard for us to advertise. It's going, that's exactly what that whole media pass is for, is you're supposed to try to make the sport look better, even if it is a little bit sensationalism, because this is entertainment. Let those guys.
Excuse me, Johnny, even the lady who was doing the interview questions said, thank you for the transparency. I mean, she said it right there on the podium. Yes. So it is appreciated by everybody. And I think, and there was a comment that was up there a little bit earlier about Deegan's racing was embarrassing. I think it's, I don't know if I'm saying it, Bungie. I politely disagree in regards to Deegan looking embarrassing, with only one caveat. Okay. And that is the context. If you were somebody tuning in for the first time, you would say, man, why is this kid like brake checking him and taking him out? And he looks like a squirrel. But it's a championship, right? This is for all the marbles. And we just set the entire stage back in 2017 with Dungey against Tomac. That year, Johnny, Tomac won 10 of the main events of the 17 and still lost the championship. Just to put things into context, 2 weeks later, Dungey retired. That was the last time we ever saw Dunge. And you could argue, is that the mental angst? That was a tough year. He got hurt the summer before and he came back and was able to defend it. First time in a long time, somebody had won 3 in a row. He's up there with the greats, with Stewart and Carmichael and Reed. And you start looking, and McGrath, and you look at all those, right? And I just think it's got to, like you said, Johnny, where's the fine line between dash for cash and a championship?
Here, we'll keep talking about that. But the chat room here,
which, by the way, Johnny,
cringe, but it was exciting.
Mad props to the chat room.
Yeah, that track. If you guys watched my analysis beforehand, I said how one line it was going to be. And I said that the real passes were going to come in the back sections, in those sand sections, because everything was way one line. Again, it was a good practice track because it flowed cool, but it wasn't a fun racing track. And what Deegan did made it exciting. Dude, that stadium was packed and people were going off the rails, dude. And on the starting gate, it was funny. I heard so much shit talking from the fans in the VIP section because they're pretty close to the starting gate. And everybody, I didn't hear any bad thing about Tomac. Everyone was just like, oh, we love you, Tomac. And then even some of these girls are like, my boyfriend loves you. It sounded gay, but then I was like, well, everyone loves Tomac, right? He's everybody's favorite rider. So, and then when Levi Kitchen was on the inside, oh, dude, people were ripping him a new one. They were saying all sorts of derogatory shit. And I was like, this has got to be hard for that young man to be sitting there and try to be focused when you got guys just to the left of you just screaming profanities at you. And then what did he do in that second main event? Because I'll have my video blog up, so you guys will be able to hear a little bit about it. He ended up getting a really good start and was like second. And so it gave me a different perspective and a lot of respect for Kitchen, because there's something funny with, I want to call it like a Deeganism, because if you get involved with Deegan in any way, whether it's positive or negative, you get attacked by the fans from him. And that's exactly what Levi did, was when Levi took out Deegan, even though it wasn't really meant to be a takeout, it was more meant to just be a block pass, but shit happens. His comment sections, if you read anything on his Instagram, even from posts that were like 4 weeks old, there was just all this like, F you, Levi, blah, blah, blah. And it's just one of those things where people say that Deegan acts a lot like a tool bag. And I'm a big believer that there's no such thing as bad press, because like, look at what we're talking about. And regardless if it was irresponsible or if it was seen as dirty or overly aggressive or you needed to black flag him, he is helping the sport without a doubt.
here's something. Let's look ahead 10 years. And stick with me, Johnny. Let me set the context. It'll take just a second. Do you remember when they brought in Ricky Carmichael at the US Open and he had a crown on and everybody lost their marbles? Now,
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
yeah, Ricky talks about it. The guy that put it on, it was his idea. His agent Rich Taylor was not a fan of it, and Ricky did it. And he came down, and it was not well received because at the time the guy to beat was McGrath, right? Now, fast forward, we didn't have social media back when McGrath was as popular as he was. Think about his popularity when all we had was magazines and cycle news, right? That was it. I mean, think about it. One of his biggest sponsors was 1-800-COLLECT, just to put it in context of time. Remember when you could dial in and get the race results, and we thought we had died and gone to Winter Park?
Yeah, I never.
Now, fast forward to this. We go forward 10 years. Let's say Deegan is now the heir apparent and somebody starts beating Deegan. If you thought Levi took the wrath of Christ because he took him out and he's on his ascent, what happens when he is a dominant guy and all of a sudden everybody has their time, right? Ricky started getting beat and people didn't like that. When Ricky beat McGrath, people didn't like that. When you can go through all of them from Stanton all the way up, right? And then you just think about the backlash of if somebody's that upset, and Deegan's got what, 1.3 million followers just on YouTube alone.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at, like you say, Johnny, the people that are being brought to the sport because of Deegan, who just think he's cool. And then you add the metal militia thing that's coming back in. And I don't know, there's some subtle little hints of things to come. Metal militia was one of them that we saw this weekend. I heard that there's a pretty good chance he's changing gear companies when he goes on the 450. So that's going to be huge as well. There's a lot that's kind of the stage is being set, but I just think it's going to be interesting to see when somebody bumps Deegan off. Of course, based on Jet's statement, I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon. I thought his statement was pretty profound in the press conference.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can talk about that too. But I want to highlight what Peter said. So should penalties be tripled if points are tripled?
Yes.
That's a damn good question.
Yes, absolutely.
Without a doubt. Yeah, it should.
It's like, remember math, what you do to the left side of the equation, you have to do to the right side of the equation. I think that's only fair and legitimate.
Yeah.
You can't just have the benefit.
Penalty, it should have been a 15-point penalty.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have the benefit without the cost being equal. So that's a brilliant point, Peter.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
I didn't think of that, but that is 1000%.
Yeah.
I need to post this up because the guys at Whiskey Throttle posted something that was where,
while you're looking that up, was it you that posted it? I'm not a big social media guy. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but I saw a video. Maybe it was Supercross Voices. I can't remember who it was, but it was Deegan sitting on the starting gate and he looks to the right and he looks at Joe and then he looks over at him like 3 different times. And that was the first time I was like, man, it looks like, it was like, that legitimately looks like Joe's getting some free rent in Deegan's head there. That was like the first time I was like, usually Deegan's always looking forward, doesn't care. But, he had his arms crossed and he's looking over to his right and he looks at him like 3 times in a row. And I was like, I thought you had a very good point on that video, Johnny. That was something I hadn't seen with Deegan.
Yeah, here.
And then, of course, the rest was history.
We'll pop that up here too. Okay. So everybody in the chat, hold your horses right here. And
hey, we've got a very active chat. Hey, guys, I don't know how many. I'm not seeing a lot of thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up button if you wouldn't mind. That would help out the logarithm big time.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Now I gotta, because again, I'm in my makeshift studio here, so I don't have the 47 screens that I have, so I gotta is it gonna show it here? Yeah, cool. Okay, so this was it. And yeah, you can just see Deegan eyeball.
Yeah, he looks, and then looks back. Can't really see it on the screen very well.
Like 2 or 3 times he looks back.
Yeah.
Or looks over at him. But I did think that it was down. Basically by design too for him to start on the inside. Like it was all there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And absolutely.
This was cool seeing Sexton, I guess moments before his major accident, cheering on.
Did you see his accident, Johnny? Because I didn't see it on video anywhere. It was weird that the fender was pushed down in front of the tire. That's not a very good sign. Of
Yeah.
course, the fact that he got carted off wasn't a good sign either.
Yeah. Here, let me look that up too.
And of course, makes you wonder what Designations is going to look like at this point.
Holy fuck, dude. That is look at that photo.
Well, he's out right there. He's knocked
Yeah.
out cold.
Well,
But what's interesting is when you see the work crew bringing his bike off, that fender is folded down in front of the tire. And he said that, the post race was a concussion and shoulder.
okay,
But
where was it? I knew that this was there. Okay, there's another one with the bike flowing off.
okay, so they said Slowy's got the video, Johnny. Wherewithal said Slowy's got it on his. I give that guy credit. He gets a lot of unique videos.
I bet people just send it to him, to be honest.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Because I know I saw it too. So
I love that comment with Handmaker when he saw them both down. He goes, "Oh, here we go." He's thinking to himself, and we got to give credit to Seth Handmaker. I mean, 2 championships, a couple points. It's a lot of money. Oh,
dude,
there
that
it
was
is.
such a hot mess.
And that was in that high speed section, right?
Yeah. That section was fun to watch, but
looks like he hit. I mean, at that
his
speed,
body
it had to be
bounced.
somewhat of a kicker or something because he nose picks that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So talking with some of the fans, all the fans, like a lot of them, they were drinking into there. So, it was fun talking to them, but they were saying that he was hauling ass through that section. So he was wah, and hit a hole, right? So then the bounced, and then he came into the front, and then it was just because of his speed, just the inertia was taking him like this, and he couldn't get away from the motorcycle. And so at the press conference, I was talking with 7 Deuce, and I was going, dude, it had to have been the tire. This effing scoop tire is not meant for this hard pack, just choppy, fast stuff. It's meant for loamy, deep stuff because it should be a hard compound, right?
Yeah.
So that it can. So I'm just in the assumption that that's what created the kick was he lost the traction there because there's hardly zero sidewalls to those things, and how that was like at an angle hauling ass fast, there's not a whole lot of grip there. So once you get that blue groove, slide back a little bit, can get swapped. Because I saw so many guys get kicked side to side from Jet to Tomac to there was a lot of riders that almost had the bars ripped out from under them.
Look at Jordan Smith and the ride that he took.
Oh, holy shit.
That video was nasty.
What a tough
Side swap.
SOB, though.
Yeah.
Because he was like 15 feet in the air on that one.
But if you count, I think he spun like 3 times and then landed directly on that shoulder. Ty in Thailand had a good point though. That section doesn't really warrant any kind of a kicker. To your point though, Johnny, if it's tore up by the paddle tire or my point being is Ty in Thailand was talking about the idea maybe it's a shock issue with the KTM, which we know Vial was complaining about that as well. So, it's obviously we're here Monday morning quarterbacking, but it just here you go. Watch how many times he spins it right on that shoulder. That was brutal.
Yeah, I went into the pits because I was like, hey, how the F is Jordan? And everyone was just kind of giving me the eyeball, and they're just like, he's good. He's gonna race. And I'm like,
yeah,
that doesn't mean he's okay.
Watch A-Star. They put it right back in. Just slide it right back into place. Can you imagine the amount of pain medicine he was on to go to the main event? And the crazy part is Jordan's done it so many times. He probably just walked over. He said, yep, go ahead and put it in place. Been here, done that. And then he goes and gets
a Trans World for getting that.
I mean, that was a heck of an angle as he's coming right towards you. Just you watch it left.
Do you see that kicker
boom,
right there?
Boom. Yeah.
Okay. And it's going, there's 0 sidewalls on these scoop tires.
But that's not where Sexton went down, right? That's a completely different section. Okay.
Well,
because to your point exactly, if you look at that side swap, it's nasty. And when you look at when they picked up Sexton's
I need to look at
bike,
it again to see where it was.
Looks like he goes under one of the banners. I'm not sure where on the track that is. Well, he's right there by the tunnel jump as he's walking by it. So is it after the tunnel jump? Tunnel roller, I guess you call it.
Nope, that is exactly where Sexton went down.
Okay.
That is exactly where Sexton went out. And where that bike high-sided him off,
Yeah.
that lip is where Sexton hit it with his body. So with Jordan, that lip flew him off, and where Sexton hit, he just got a sudden stop there. So that is exactly the same spot. I don't know if it's the same kicker, but
Right.
I think it makes it to the point where it's the tire, right? I'm
Well,
going to say the
if
tire, because I was
you
talking with Seven Deuce, and he was going, dude, the lighting back there fucking sucked. And so he had the consensus that Sexton couldn't see, and that's how he crashed. But in this instant, it doesn't work because it's daylight out, so you can see the holes there. So I think it was a combination of two, but I do believe it was more the tire, because a lot of guys I've talked to, they have told me that the tire doesn't hook up as well, and they know that. They're just ready for it, but they know that, like, if they don't get a start, they can't come through the pack. So it's have the tire for the start, and then that's it. I'm going, that's not a good reason to run a tire, because it's less safe.
And then take what Ty in Thailand said. You take that tire, you take that edge, you catch the edge, and your rear shock isn't working very well. You see Sexton coming through, riding the nose, and then just nose picks it. You know, the scary part is they announced that as a mild concussion. At that speed, I don't buy that. That's a pretty big impact.
Yeah, and Tim Cross says, why don't they put scoop tread on the sidewalls like a rock crawler tire? I don't know. If they're going to run the scoop, they need to just put the treads around the entire thing like that. But maybe with the scoop treads, maybe it would hit the swing arms. I don't know, but it's Dunlop. They should be able to.
Well, it's just, Johnny, you've talked about this over and over and over and over and over again, right? We talk about how the tracks get completely torn to shreds. And I know that Dunlop's going to have to phase through what they've got in inventory and all that. But if we don't start to pivot soon, this is only going to get worse. Because it used to be there'd be one or two guys that would take a risk and run the tire for the start. Well, now when you've got over half the field running it, that track can't stand up. And they're not doing track maintenance in between. They don't, not enough time.
I mean, they're doing it vaguely. They're doing it.
Yeah, they're doing the best they can. They've only got so much time. They're going to the worst case.
Yeah. But then at the same time, you can't have a completely smooth track, because a lot of guys can go fast on a smooth track. It's really the Tomacs and the Lawrences that can excel when the track gets sketchy and scary, right? Yeah. So I do like a gnarly track, but there's a fine line there, and those four strokes make it even worse with the grunt that they have, the low end torque to it. And I did find it very interesting that Justin Hill was the only 450 guy that I saw that was running a 110, a 250 tire rather than the 120. And he was actually running the scoop tire, but he was running the standard tire. He wasn't running the spec tire. And I was like, I haven't had anyone answer me what the compound is for, because they've got an A spec tire and then they've got a B spec tire, and they kind of have those for all of them, right? And at the same time, I'm like, this is where I get frustrated a little bit with the sport, where you're going, hey, it's a production, we've got a production rule. So these bikes are stock. You can go out there as a privateer, because you can sign up by just racing a motorcycle that is not 4 years old. You can, boom, get here, get contingency. But then there's all these unattainiums that you can't get. If you're not a factory guy, you're not getting Dunlop's spec tires. And in the realm of any racing, talking with the road racing guys, the MotoGP guys, tires are almost as important, if not more important, than the motor packages on stuff. And that's something that's overlooked here, is people are like, oh, he's just running the scoop tire. I'm just going to go to my local bike shop and buy the goddamn scoop tire. Like, no, you're not. Those tires are a couple grand compared to the $89 or $120 for your tire. That's not the same tire.
Yeah, huge. Like we say, what's horsepower worth if it can't be put to the ground? I mean, that's just rule number one. Diffin, excuse me, Biff in here had the same question that I had asked when Deegan had that sick line where he was jumping over the hay bale, jumping into the sand section. Which, by the way, Johnny, that reminds me of what they did to Purcell at Daytona. When he was riding for Pro Circuit, there was a little switchback section, and Purcell in practice was just going right up and over the hay bale. And when they went out for second practice, they put a PVC pipe right up in there and didn't tell him, and he just wadded himself up when he hit it. It just blows my mind. They wouldn't tell. Purcell did, yeah. But I want to go to Biff's question here, because I asked the same question numerous times. When Deegan tapped his head, you know, but the way that his head snapped, I don't understand that. Now,
here, I need to try to find it.
In one of the comments in here, and I apologize, I missed who it was that said it, so I apologize, I can't give you credit, but they were saying that Ryder D's leg got caught in the rear wheel. I didn't see that. Richard's saying it right now. So if you've got that, I looked and looked. I didn't see it. I'm not saying it didn't happen. It was just weird. And I hate to use this based on what's going on in our environment right now, but it looked like he got shot. And it was like,
oh yeah, he did. He looked like Call of Duty, you know,
just
the way ragdoll get shot. And then,
well, it was the same thing when Cole Davies jumped off the track and he hit that hay bale. It looked like he landed on a landmine. Like, I couldn't understand. I mean, we've seen bikes jump off the track and hit the hay bales, but like, he hit that hay bale and it sent him to the left, like an absolute bomb went off. And I felt like the same thing. And I agree with Ty in Thailand. You know, he was knocked out cold, 100%. I would agree. Oh, he's saying that's what Ryder said. Yeah, you can see, and unfortunately with Ryder D's background, I think you guys are aware of this, but every time you get a concussion, it takes less and less for you to be knocked out from a head impact.
There's a better shot of it somewhere.
But I'm wanting to see if there's an angle where it shows. I didn't see his leg get caught up in the bike, but that was so creepy.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy's head's right in the way. You can't see it. There's another angle of it, like you were saying.
I know. I'm trying to look for it.
No, it's yeah, it's a sad situation, and especially with everything that was going on. Obviously, there was no malicious intent.
This isn't the best one. I've seen a better one, but it's not bad.
So watch his leg. See,
the aftermath is what that looks.
No. He rides off of his head. So his body shouldn't whiplash the other direction. So he's already hit him in the head. He's knocked out cold. Now just watch his head. Nothing's touched his head.
Coach, but if all of a sudden that's when he gets knocked out, like he gets hit, right?
Yeah, but if he would just go limp and fall down, not look like he's been jerked by something. And that's why I was wanting to see, if you look at his leg. Now, again, I may be wrong. I wasn't there. But if you watch his left leg, it doesn't look like he gets caught in the bike. It's just a really creepy, again, especially with the landscape of what's going on in the world right now. He gets hit here.
Yeah, no, his leg was not caught there.
Yeah.
Dude, do you believe it goes? Because it looked like he just got dragged by a foreign object.
It looks like he got clotheslined by something is what it looks like, because it's so abrupt. Because once you get knocked out, okay, you're going to go limp, but there's like a pause, and then all of a sudden he jerks. And at first I thought his bars hit his face, but if you look closely, the bars don't touch his face. So he gets hit in the head. His bars are below him. Dude, now watch his head. Well, maybe it it doesn't look like the left side of his bars actually went up.
Coach, I just have to say that it was a delayed reaction. All of a sudden, then his body just went limp, and that's when it.
Well, one of the guys in the comments said, "Is it a nerve reaction?" And it could be, of course. You know, I don't know. I'm not an expert in it, but I just remember watching that. Even during the live play, I actually rewound it a couple times because I was in my office late working, and I just kept rewinding. I'm like, why does it look like he got clotheslined by something? It was so brutal.
Yeah.
And again, props to Deegan, because he completely yard darts himself here. And look how fast he gets up and gets back on the bike and just takes off. The guy's like rubber band, you know, as strong as Sexton.
Like that bad of a crash for.
No, but just think about when you land on somebody's head like that, you don't know what's coming. He's committed to the jump, thumps
Yeah.
it, and
Because
props to
truthfully,
Deegan.
Deegan probably wouldn't have crashed there if he didn't care about Ryder D, if I'm being honest. But I think he was midair looking like, oh shit, this guy made a
Trying.
mistake in front of me. I'm going to murder him.
Yep.
So that's why he looped out. Because if he would have just not cared, he would have just been perfect and been able to just knock through there. Thank God Ryder D did not break his neck. If we're being honest, thank God he did not break his neck. Because look at the inertia there.
Yeah.
God. Dude, honestly, okay, because we're speculating, hypothetically, coach, if
Yeah.
he had a oh shit, nobody wants to look at that meat. What the hell is that?
That's just on those video feeds. You never
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Is
Is
that
it cool though?
symbolic of what the logarithm said that looks like happened to Deegan? I don't know. Is he out filleting some meat or what?
Yeah, I wasn't done watching this. If he would have had a neck brace on, would have he have been more injured
Probably a
with that
broken back.
kind of pressure?
Well, I can't say that.
Not being able to have your neck move naturally, like right here. Okay.
It flows. Yeah.
Boom. Do you see if he would have had a neck brace that was preventing his neck or his head from moving down like that, what would have that taken out?
Well, I'm not an expert on neck braces. I just know that the new generation of them, it distributes the energy completely laterally instead of pressing down on the spine. So they are designed to separate after they take the initial hit. See, let that play in real time. And go back to the beginning of it where it shows it from the other angle.
Okay, but just right here, this looks like
Man,
if you're playing a video game, Halo or something,
Yeah.
and you headshot him.
Watch it from the other angle right here. It just nothing adds up when you watch him right here. Ryder D. Nothing's touching him, and then he just boom.
Yeah,
That was the
what Blake
strangest thing.
said, it had to have been a nerve response. Just had to have been a nerve response.
And what a statistical odds in that going into that sand section that Ryder's D rear end would come out on him. You didn't see
Yeah.
many guys, lose the rear end in that entrance of that section at precisely the time that Deegan was doing a jump that not many people were doing into the sand section except Jet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just statistically a bad situation.
I mean, there's just such a fine line with stuff because I've had conversations with MX Sports and about changing the track and everything, and they're like, "Hey, we have some riders that are going to go out there and do stuff, and then they disregard their own safety, and then you've got more mature riders, the likes of Tomac, Sexton, and these guys that are like, hey." Don't make us go do that because we will do it because it is doable. The margin of error is a really high risk. So let's just keep everyone safe because at the end of the day, everyone wants to ride home and it is about entertainment. So I did find something interesting that Tomac said between the practices is that they changed some of the track, and talking with some of the flaggers, which by the way, hats off to the flaggers. They did a wonderful job this weekend. And
it's a long day.
In one of the rollers, they took out one of the rollers and they didn't tell any of the riders until, they just went out there, which I feel like if you're changing the track, can we please just have a quick little safety meeting on the gate when you're lining up? Just say, hey guys, forewarning, just so you're aware, we changed this and this. And I know that they do get a sight lap. So without anything being said, they sit there, they start, they get ready, they clear out their rut, whatever. They have one lap to kind of check stuff out. That's enough for you to go, oh, I need to adjust where I'm going to go during the race. However, it would be nice to know up front that, hey, we changed this. So when you go out the sight lap, make sure you pay attention to that,
No, you're right on the money. Unfortunately, that resulted in a fatality at the amateur level. And they made an adjustment. They don't get a sight lap. They went through a section. Throughout the weekend, there was this big G out before this big sky jump, and it was slowing him down, and they filled it in, and he just went right off of it and kind of Doug Henry style, and unfortunately lost his life because of that.
This year has been effing gnarly with stuff. Effing gnarly with stuff.
Yeah.
And
that's the part that you start putting all this together. Let's go back to Tomac saying that it took him, and I thought this was pretty well. We all know that Tomac's very, very mature, but when he said that he didn't pick up on what Hunter and Jet were doing until the second moto, when he was, that rhythm section where Jet and Hunter were doing something that he wasn't. He's like, I figured it out too late. And I thought, you don't see many guys making that kind of admission, but it just shows you how crafty Jet and his brother are in regards. And we've talked about this on the show before. When you look at some riders, like I'll give James Stewart credit. When I was fortunate enough to work with Kyle Chisholm and we were teammates with James, with Sam Manuel, we're at James Stewart's track, and you watch the things that he does on the track, and it's just not what the typical brain thinks about, whether it's a timing, whether it's a rhythm section, whatever it may be. And I saw the same thing when I was working with Dunge. Ricky looked at the track completely different than Dunge. And of course, when you get those two minds together, tremendous things happened. But it's very interesting when you're with somebody who sees it so different.
Small little segue.
Yeah.
To today's video sponsor, me, myself, and I. I'm kidding. The pit boards, like the radios.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of blown away with everything that was going on track, that the mechanics weren't relaying the information to Joe to be like, dude, let him go. Deegan is out to do this strategy of let you pass so that he can fuck with you. Let him go and you'll win. Let him go,
What was the worst place that Joe could get and still win the championship? You know the math off the top of your head? I didn't do the math.
Because what was he, like 13 points or was he 8 points ahead?
I thought he was 8 or 10 points. I thought he was 10 going in. Somebody in the chat room help us out.
Okay,
to your point exactly, though.
Win to second place, it's normally a 3-point swing. If it's triple points, that's 9 points. So he had to, I think, finish right behind him.
So if Deegan wins, then Joe can get second. And this is the exact scenario that Tomac had with Dungy back in 17.
Guys are saying in the chat room, fourth. Hey, appreciate the chat, man.
Absolutely. Much, much appreciated.
You had to get fourth. Okay, so there, right there. Maybe could Seth have been able to get up there and
but this is the exact scenario that Tomac had with Dungy, because if you go back and you watch that 2017 Vegas race, at first it just looks like, hey, it's just Dunge and it's Tomac trying to figure this out. And Jeff Emig picks up on it really quickly. He says, you have to look who's behind Dunge. Reed already had a beef with Dunge. You've got Josh Grant, who is teammates with Tomac, right? It could go wrong really, really quick. A couple people team up against Dungy. He has to be far enough up to be able to still win. He has to be top 5, but there's 5 guys directly behind him. And this, where you're showing right here, Anderson's already taken out Reed. Yeah. So literally at the beginning of this lap, there were 5 guys behind Tomac that could all go around Dunge. It's the exact scenario that Joe had. You could try to run away from him.
But Coach, I will give it up to Dungy a little bit more than Joe as far as the experience. Multiple times we saw this, because here's the first one, right? Where
he knows it's coming.
Dungy's just body awareness of where that bike is, because this is a sheer blown takeout. Because if we were to can I potentially, am I going to fuck everything up if I try this? Maybe if I, oh God.
Now look at that angle that Tomac's going at and compare that to Levi and Deegan. It just shows you the racecraft difference.
So can you see what I'm drawing?
The motive. No, you can't see it.
You can't see anything?
No, sir.
Okay, well then maybe I just need to exit out of that. Okay. Anyway, my point, I'll just use my mouse. If Dungy just continues with that line, he's getting his ass taken out. But he checks up right there, dabs his foot, and saves his ass, right? That was a full-blown takeout. He saves his ass from going down. And then again here, last couple laps, watch what Dungy, Jesus, Johnny, like get your
I did the same thing. Don't worry about it. I did the same thing.
So that's why we're live here, right? So anyway,
he slows up.
Tomac gets around him and then lets Dungy right back by. And Dungy right away is like, uh-oh. And look at him. He looks over at him and goes, this guy's going to clean me out. So he just slams on his brakes, goes around all the ruts. And so then Tomac has to adjust where he was going, because he was heading right here for the clean out move. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
crap, now I can just try to block him. But just the heads up riding by Dungey is far superior by him just being able to stay on two wheels, where Joe during the race looked as if he was still somewhat racy, right? So he
Mm-hmm.
was still taking the fast lines and he wasn't doing a whole lot of body preservation. And that's why Deegan looked like he was going in there and was really trying to hurt him, right? And I don't think that was the case at all. But my point with the pit boards and honestly radios like an F1 or something would have made this much more entertaining and could have saved some of this action from happening. Why weren't the mechanics saying, Joe, let him go, just let him
Yeah.
go, stay
Well,
out
that's
of his
like
game.
Carlos kept putting on the board, be smart. Like he knew what was coming. But, when you go back to that situation with Dunge and Tomac, you have to give Tomac credit because in that first one that you showed early in the race, that was on lap number 2. If you notice, Tomac didn't go for the frame kill. He didn't even go for the front wheel. He just got in front of him, right? Now, compare that to the year
Wait,
that
you're talking
Michael
about this
Lessie,
one?
yeah, look at him. He
Oh,
goes
no,
right in front of him.
this was total front wheel, right?
No, no, no. What I'm saying though is he didn't smash Dungy's front wheel. Like
No, he
if
was
he
going
wanted to
for it,
just,
coach. He was
well, to your
going for
point,
it.
if Dungy had cut it, but I don't think Tomac thought he would be able to take him out. I think he thought for sure he'd be able to push him off the track, but then Dunge was smart enough to just hit the brake so he doesn't go off the track. Because it's the same thing we saw like when Deegan's bike went off the track. That wasn't a really big impact on the front lever, but it broke it anyways. So that if you look at that again,
Okay,
Tomac
now I
shows his
know.
maturity because you remember that year when Michael Lessie cleaned out Brock Tickle on that right hander. I think it was at Atlanta. Like we said it at the beginning of the show today. If you both go down, then it wasn't a good pass. Notice that all of the times that Tomac did that, 3 times in that race, Tomac didn't go down, even though he was trying to push Dunge off the track or make him go backwards. He still didn't take his front wheel off, didn't, frame slam him. It just shows you how smart Tomac is as a racer as well. Number one, not to get hurt. And number two, if you both go down, it's not a good pass. What is it you're looking for, boss?
Now my internet's not working the best
Oh.
here. Because I was looking at the Cole Davies deal.
Yeah. Now, see, that's just because Cole Davies didn't check
He
up to your
wasn't
point.
aware. He wasn't
Yeah.
aware. He was
And I
still
think he
going
was
for his
committed
race.
to the line. If you look at where Cole's at, he's just trying to get in the same line that he's taken 12 laps before.
Yeah, he's committed to the line. It's a lack of experience.
I was going to say, what's Cole, 17 at this time or 16 maybe?
Where this is full-blown experience, knowing who is behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is just so impressive with what Dungey does, is because watch.
Go back a little bit before it. Watch Tomac's body language as Dunge goes in.
But here, he's cutting across the whoops.
Mm-hmm.
And Dungey doesn't have eyes behind him, but watch as he is
getting hold right there.
Square up,
but
and
hold
he puts
right
his
there.
foot down. He probably just instantly sees this, says, "Oh, I need to not dive down. I need to check up."
See, I'm going to disagree with you here politely. Just go back to the entrance of the corner. This is just a thought I have. I'm not saying that I'm right. Why would Dungey go that far out? It looks like he's almost going damn near straight. He's not even turning, right?
Well,
this
he's
is
taking
only
the race line is what he's doing.
But this is so early in the race. I don't think he thought Tomac was going to go after him this hard this early. This is only like lap number 2.
Yeah. Coach, I'm just giving him props for his reaction on the spot.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I think when we look at the racecraft side of it, go back to Kitchen taking out Deegan on the first lap. I think in this case, Dunge wasn't really anticipating it, because if he really thought Tomac was going to take him out, there's no way Dunge would have left that inside line. It's kind of like Savatgy in that last turn. He had to have known that Zach was coming in. It was the last lap of a championship race. And if you go back and watch it on YouTube, Jeff Emig was announcing with Ralph Shaheen, and Jeff said, for a championship, you should have never left that door open. And at the very end of the broadcast, they interviewed Ricky. He was doing trackside, and Ricky said the same thing. He should have never allowed that situation to even arise. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, I was trying to look for something else, but I didn't find it. So
Do
again,
you think that Deegan gets his collarbone plated and does donations, or do you think he
yeah,
moves on?
that's the next conversation I wanted to
Okay.
go in is
Okay.
for MX of Nations, and then we'll go because I know we're sitting here. But this, okay, shout out to Whiskey Throttle Media. Okay, look at this right after the fact. And they're saying cool little moment between two brothers. And I'm going,
Mhm.
this is, to me, this is the Talladega Nights deal where the brothers are talking and he's like, hey, I want to win.
Can you
And
let
then,
me win?
the
Well,
other brother's
if
like,
you
but
win,
then
then that means I don't win.
I can't win.
Then I can't win. Yeah, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I was no, I'm sorry. Well, if you win, that means I can't win. Did you think about that? Yeah, yeah, I thought about that. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay. Not that, this is lack of empathy here. Um,
But it's cool on both behalves because they're not afraid to show emotion. Obviously, there's a lot of pent-up emotion with this. Johnny, I'm gonna throw you under the bus here for a moment, even though it's your show. What did I
okay.
say to you that when Hunter first came here, the first 3 years he was never healthy? And I said, if we see a healthy Hunter, we're gonna see a title contender. Unfortunately, his brother has learned from all of his
I
mistakes.
think I also fired back saying that he was not going to be able to beat his brother straight up.
No, you're
And
right.
that
No, you're right.
still stands. Here, coach, tell me if you can hear this.
No, sir.
Any volume? Yeah, well,
No.
fuck.
Is it muted?
Well, it's part of like how
No, I
I
was wondering if it was
present
muted on the video that you were just playing,
um no shit, no.
because usually we can hear stuff.
Here, let me try this one more time. So, chat, thanks for being patient. It's hard to be patient nowadays. Share screen, share audio.
I just appreciate you taking the time to put these together every week. Takes a lot of time. People don't realize it.
It won't let me share the audio for
Okay.
some dumbass reason here, but I can go back here. But that's basically once I get my studio back, I can have the
Did
other
you
stuff
did you
up.
want to stay on the subject of designations or the two brothers dealing with that emotional turmoil?
Well, I was talking about. I asked Hunter on the podium that there's a lot to be thankful for as far
Watch
as this
watch
season.
watch Jet contemplate right there. He's just sitting there. Think about it. Play that again. Watch Jet just sit there and contemplate for like 2 seconds right here. What do I say? Shit, I gotta say something. That's hard. You
This
just
is
won
the exact
$1,000,000.
point where I'm like, Hunter needs to get the hell out of Honda if he wants to be first string, right? I do think that Hunter has the ability to win. I don't know if he's got championship contention as far as being able to win the title, but if he
Mhm.
wants to win more races and have the chance, the opportunity to do that, because in this sport, you're only as good as your last race and things are always changing. And sometimes it could be the Austin Faulkner thing. It could be the Bubba thing where if you
Mhm.
stop when you're on your A game, somebody else comes on and takes your front wheel out. Okay. And then you're not the hot commodity anymore. Hunter is at a pinnacle point in his career where this is lack of better terminology. He needs a shitter get off the pot, right? Are you okay with the contract that you have with Honda? Whatever it is, everyone is so pumped at Jet making his 17 million or whatever. But what is Hunter getting? Is it 2 million? Is it 4 million? Like, that's the questions that I need to ask, thinking on the top of my head. Because if you're okay with that, sweet, stay with Honda. If you're okay with being second, because truth be told, there's 350 million people here in the United States, and a lot of them would probably want to be in Hunter's place. But does Hunter want to be in that place? If he wants to win, I believe it needs to come from a different manufacturer so that he can test and make that motorcycle better, so that he's more on a level playing field. Because talent-wise, Jet is here. Okay, Hunter is here. Motorcycle-wise, it levels them both up. But if Jet doesn't have Hunter's testing ability, well, now Hunter's motorcycle is better. So it's much closer for him to capitalize on a mistake from Jet, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense. But here's the only caveat that puts Hunter in a really catch-22 is HRC is back in their prime like they were during McGrath's days and Ricky's days. They've got the best platform. They've got the best R&D. Right now, KTM's in shambles. Kawasaki's got its own internal turmoil. That's why Tomac left initially, right? They would not work with him. We know that they're pretty hard ironclad in the way that they do things. Yamaha, they've got a full program and will for the next couple of years. There's no place for Hunter to go where, some people would argue that Star maybe from an R&D standpoint, from an amount of resources, might be able to rival Honda, but Honda's back in their prime. Now you got to remember, Jet is the first person to get a Premier Class win since Ricky Carmichael. I mean, their drought was, decades. So where would Hunter go? No matter where Hunter goes, it's a step back. So it's better to get second to your brother with all of those resources, and then you could add the convenience. They train together every day. They share the compound. They own the compound. Obviously, they're riding together. They've got all of the same R&D guys at the same compound with the same resources, and they're feeding off of each other. We talked about Hunter goes out, rides a bike, and sets it up for Jet, and then Jet just rides it, right? So if you're looking at where would Hunter go, he would go nowhere but backwards. Now, some people would argue Star's got a solid program, and I agree, but there's no place for him to go. So that's where Hunter's in a real catch-22, because I don't think there's anybody that disagrees with your opinion, Johnny. But where would he go to get better?
See, and then this is where some of the chats come in. Hunter and Shimoda to Ducati or Triumph. But again, then you're on inferior equipment right now. But I do want to say that the reason why that Honda is probably so good too is from the likes of Trey Kennard and
100%.
Hunter testing,
100%.
right?
100%.
That whole program. But full stop, MX of Nations, excited, not excited, pissed
Not
off.
excited. Not excited. Yeah, I don't see Chase coming back and racing,
He
because
shouldn't. With a concussion like that? No way. No way.
You got the concussion and his shoulder's jammed up. So if he's going to have to get that worked on, like Seth is having surgery tomorrow, and he said it in the press conference, he's just trying to get ready for 2016 or 2020, 2016. He's looking forward to getting ready for 2026. So he's getting his shoulder done. Looks like Sexton's going to have some work done. Sexton's got a concussion. Sexton's changing colors. Sexton's out. So, like Tomac said, and I loved how he approached the question in the press conference, if you're not enthusiastic to be on the team, then don't be on the team. But then you're back to the idea, Kawasaki's never supported Des Nations. So it's not like we're going to see anybody from Team Green jump over there. Of course, we still don't know what's going on with Prado. Where does he end up? But we know the Kawasaki program doesn't look too good right now. You look at KTM, he's leaving them. So
Justin Cooper, RJ might be the best ticket. RJ on a 250, Justin Cooper on a 450.
You bring up a good point. You bring up a good point. Both those guys are riding the wheels off of a 450. So who do you demote to the 250? So they're both good on 450, but which would be better going down to the 250 in your opinion? RJ. I would say J Coop.
So we both maybe you have a point there, because RJ seems to kamikaze himself whenever he's on a 250.
That's all I was going to say. We all joke that we're just waiting for him to grenade himself. On the 450, we haven't seen that type of mistakes. J Coop is just smooth as butter. I think you put him on a KLX 110.
Well, and how good was he on the 250?
Unbelievable.
Like, he was constantly second in like everything on the 250.
And the only reason why he left the 250 is because he pointed out, it wasn't that he got tired with the bike or he outgrew the bike or anything. But I look at the idea that RJ is inconsistent on the 250, has been very consistent on 450, and J Coop was just smooth as butter on that 250. And that's the only.
But dude, as a proud American, I'm almost like, this is the first MX of Nations that I've been invited to, and now I'm like, do I even want to effing go? Because
you know what? I'm gonna take back what I said. I think if RJ and Coop would agree to go, I think that I would have high hopes on that, because they're both riding extremely well.
Yeah,
I mean J Coop came in with the red plate to SMX, and if you look at RJ, he's done nothing but move forward the entire year.
And because then there's other guys are saying Kitchen and J Coop. I don't know. I mean, Kitchen for the 250, I just don't think that is
He's not dependable.
People are saying if they only knew how red I was.
As soon as you mention that e-bike, you are done, man. You are done.
Yeah. No, that's the problem with like politics is
Biff
you're either
Biff got me here. I have to give Biff a high five knuckle punch. He got me. He said no take backs. And you're exactly right, Biff. I just didn't give credit to RJ and J Coop. That's my bad, 100%, because they both have had stellar years. Sorry, Johnny, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Biff got me here, so he's spot on.
No, I just find it interesting that so having the ability to change your view with new information is like a very rare trait from people. And I hate it that people are such stuck in a box where you're either this way or that way. When in reality, we're all somewhere kind of in the middle, right? But because of everybody wants commonality, they want a group to be associated with, then you get stuck with that. Because I will straight up say that I'm 1000% on a Republican, but I'm what's the saying? Okay, here. This is where I'll probably get in trouble because I don't really like bringing up a whole lot of politics here. But yeah, guys are saying no Deegan, no Sexton, no Hurlings, no Vial. MX is ruined. We'll talk a little bit about that. But Coach, from a family level, I would say I'm very Democrat. Where we all share, right? Boom, boom, boom. From a state level, I would say I'm very Republican. And then from a national level, I would say I'm more of a libertarian, right? So it changes with the broader perspective of stuff. And that's where I think people get stuck in the box. And if you guys are all big on, I'm a big simulation hypothesis guy, and I'd like to nerd out on science, but like Schroeder's box. Anyway, we won't even talk about that shit. But
so Johnny, here's a question for you. Here's a question for you. And Guy Lamb was just talking about it, and I totally agree. Let's say, because what Guy Lamb was saying is let's figure out the severity of it and determine whether he comes back. Now, think about how cool this could be. You're talking about a redemptive story, right? Let's say Deegan says, you know what? Or I shouldn't say the Deegan camp.
Is this the comment you're talking about?
Yeah. So think about this. So the Deegan camp says, wait a second. We just essentially... we've got a black eye on us right now after Vegas. He goes and gets that things plated. He goes to Des Nations and he pulls a Villapoto and on a 250 beats everybody on a 450. And now Deegan is the new American hero, all in the course of 3 weeks. That's not unrealistic for Deegan. Just thinking about the way that the Deegan camp approaches things, he's going to take this negative and turn it into a positive, just like he did when he came out with the black and white gear the week after he got arrested. Deegan, you can't bury this guy. You can say whatever you want, but this is one of the most polished marketing. I'm talking about the Deegan family, the business unit. And Deegan will find a way. If he goes and he puts his tail, now, like what Guy Land said, if it's a severe break and it's destroyed and it's shattered, and there's going to have to be a lot of work and it needs rehab and all that. We understand. But let's just say it's a clean break because he went into that left shoulder pretty crisp, right? Let's just say it was just a break that was a clean break. It can be plated, and in 3 weeks he goes back, especially if he uses stuff like cold laser. We did this with Matt Bonney when he was riding for Butler Brothers, and he broke his collarbone. I was working with him at the time, and we used cold laser, and he came back and got third at Daytona. So it can be done, right? So here's Matt Bonney riding one of the roughest tracks in a Supercross season. He got it plated. We did cold laser first thing in the morning, the last thing at night, and he got third at Daytona. So it's not unrealistic for Deegan to come back with it.
Well, and Cody Shaw, right? He plated it. He took like a week and came back.
Well, it's different now because you have peptides and you have other things that we didn't have back when I was working with Bonnie. But when you look at this idea, if Deegan comes out and he just absolutely sets Des Nations,
dude, I love
beats the snot out of Kai de Wolf and gets up there and does like Villapoto did when he got that 250 up against the 450s, we could be having a completely different story, to Guy Land's point.
Yeah. I don't know. It kind of gives this whole thing up in the air. And truthfully, Deegan is the one that's going to save MX of Nations if he decides to race or not. And because I do feel that getting it plated he should be around 90% to be able to go hard for a couple motos. You know, crashing wise, not the best, but here's a deal. If he races to nations, maybe he races East Coast Supercross so that he has more time to recover, right? As opposed to
That
then
makes
just
sense.
jumping to West Coast and
Well, think about how
defend your
well Deegs
championship.
raced at that track during the Outdoor National. You know, he's
Yeah.
good on that track. I like what they said here. Nobody's beating Deegan on homeland. I agree with Feldy as well. You know, there's so many cool things that could come out of this, but there is I shouldn't say no way. There's always a potential, but I just see that Deegan will find this as a huge opportunity to just give everybody the big middle finger to say, I may be down, but I'm not out. And we may be 5 years from now talking about this exact scenario where Deegan has accomplished quite a bit in the 250 class. A lot of people have said he's been almost on par with Jet in regards to how much they've won as quickly as they've won. I'm not getting into the exact statistics. I'm saying the parallels are definitely there.
Yeah.
Came
Okay.
in,
Last little thing,
dominate the class.
because I think we both need to go here, but with the production rule here, we bring our factory bikes that are somewhat inferior to the MX of Nations or the MXGP bikes. So that's one thing that you got to think of too, is we have home track advantage, but the other guys
But how do you know we're not putting unattainables on our bike? How do you know we're not juicing ours up a little bit? I can't imagine we wouldn't take that opportunity.
You have a week to test. But
yeah, but you don't think they've been testing up to this point? I do.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're going to bring a butter knife to a gunfight. If they know that those guys are bringing those rocket ships, like Prado was talking about bringing his KTM over and racing it if he could, you don't think KTM is going to give that to Sexton, or was? I don't know what the situation doesn't look too good now, but
absolutely.
Sorry, I don't want that to sound crass. I'm not.
But the other thing is, like, for the MXGP guys, MX of Nations is a big deal, right? And here in America, unfortunately, we're like, you know, and it's at the end of our season. That's all year long. So our guys are burnt out, and then there's no money at it. So you go out there and it's almost like it's a show race, right? It's not a championship effort race. It's like, I'm just showing up here to participate kind of a race. I'm not going to put myself in a situation to lose. That's the biggest thing that I don't like watching the MX of Nations about, is because you'll see a guy that if he's in third place and there's 10 minutes left of the moto, he's just, okay. You know, there's no fight, no dig in it.
Think about this though, Johnny. If J Coop races, he will have completed 32 rounds this year. He's the only guy that finished every single round.
Wild.
If he does designations. Out of 52 weeks in a year, he will have raced 32 weekends. Travel, train, recover, repeat. And I know Supercross Voices likes to talk, kind of tease. He likes to jab J Coop because he flies first class. You know, a lot of people don't realize J Coop is married to the Tyson Chicken family. He married the daughter of the Tyson family. So when you see people joking about J Coop flying private, he flies private. And what I love about J Coop is, yes, he's hyper competitive, but he doesn't do it for the money, you know, and it's a different level when you're talking about J Coop's.
I did not know that.
You think about J Coop's money
that's
wealth.
Kind of a good position to be in, because a lot of the other guys, they're in a position where they're like, fuck, I got to take care of my family. And no dog on J Coop, but that's a nice little bit. Maybe that's one of the reasons to his success on racing the whole thing, is
that's like what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. And it's interesting because some people would say, well, if you've got nothing you've got, like you said, Johnny, you got to provide for your family. You know, Tomac's out there still putting money in the bank. Doesn't really have to, if you go off of, you know, the general term of, oh, well, you know, you're already worth $10 million. Isn't that enough? Why is he still racing? Because he wants to build a legend of results. And then you look at somebody like J Coop, who doesn't have to race, but he still does.
Wow.
That's cool.
Sorry, just the comment. Watch Deegan show up and dominate, then on the podium dedicate the U.S. win to Charlie Kirk. Wow.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
That
Absolutely, Trey.
That'd be something cool.
Yep.
And talk about PR, right? That would be.
Well, that's why I was saying Deegan, if he,
Sorry, I didn't
I
mean
like,
to make your point on Justin Cooper with not being the primary breadwinner in the
oh, no,
family.
no, 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 no. What you're talking about is motivation. And I
Yeah.
just think it's really cool when somebody doesn't have to work and works, and somebody that works as hard as he does. And I hate
You're
to
left
say
to
it,
enjoy it, right? The pressure's off. That's the key thing.
well, if he races designations, that'll be 32 races. I want us to think about, and I do agree with the chat room when they're like, I wish I could get paid my salary and only work 32 weeks out of the year. I get that. I totally understand it. It's their job. But when this isn't a tit for tat, but when you go and you look at designations where we are racing against riders who have only raced for 6 months out of the year, right?
Coach,
I don't,
when I
maybe,
walk around the pits, right, and like
yeah.
there's a reason why I don't go to all the races is A, it's
Hmm.
effing expensive, and two, it's the lack of passion for that stuff. Like I go to a few and I work my ass off for them and I'm love there and I'm like, hey, I'm here to make an impact. But when you go to
Hmm.
33 of them, talking with mechanics and a bunch of stuff, a lot of guys were like, oh, we're done. We're
Well, think
done.
about that mechanic. A mechanic works literally 7 days a week.
Dude,
If
talking with
you've
some
ever
of the
known a
guys that aren't
mechanic.
even there, coach, like the
Hmm.
mechanics are still required to go there even when their rider is not there. When the
Yep.
rider gets hurt, they're back home watching it on the couch. The mechanic is there, right?
And
The
they're not
mechanics
making
don't get
300
the
grand a year. That's the thing that people
yeah.
don't
If
understand.
they're making 40 to
Uh,
150 depending.
I was going to say 100 would be on the high end of the scale. And here's the other thing, and I say this as serious as I can. That rider can wad that bike up 12 times in a moto, but that bike can't break once. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's always the joke is the rider, he can wreck and wreck and wreck, and it doesn't matter. It means obviously it's not desirable, but man, if that bike does well, look at the whole scuttlebutt with Sexton's front wheel. How much life did that have for a week afterwards? Right. And it's like, and Jay Dungy and Carlos are two of the hardest working. Frankie, who was
Oh,
Muscan's
okay.
mechanic.
Give it up to Bud Sky Cam. It's an Instagram comment, so I can't highlight that one. But he is saying that well, our guys still go overseas and race different events after American races, and the key point there is money motivation. Where just what we alluded to at the beginning of this, maybe 40 minutes ago. Jet was happy about the SMX because he's a 3-race championship for a championship bonus. When they go to World Supercross or something, it's a championship bonus, 250 grand to $500,000 for a 1-race deal. That, as we've talked about before on this podcast, sets them up for next year financially to where if something goes wrong and they have to get surgery or sit on the couch, well, thank God they went to the World Supercross to race 3 races because they made a whole year's worth of salary in just a couple races, even though that
But
they're burnt out.
but you have to add another caveat, and I hope everybody's paying attention. They get paid to show up. They don't race for a purse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your point. You go over there, you're guaranteed more money for 3 off-season races than the guaranteed purse if you won every single race next
No
year.
pressure.
Now,
No
that
pressure.
is not to throw the promoters under the bus. That's not what that's not the thread of thought we're going down. But my skin crawls when they say, well, as soon as the season's over, they go do off-season races because they get paid to show up. To your point, Johnny, no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to go enjoy racing and they can be competitive and they get a mechanical or something goes wrong. It just cost me X amount of
Well,
dollars.
and at that
Their
point, coach,
money's
they're not
guaranteed.
worried about testing or gotta practice during the week because there's no pressure. They're like, if I
Hmm.
finish fifth, I finish fifth. And then they just take their family to Europe or wherever the hell they're going. They turn it into a small little vacation. So
Right.
it's kind
Well,
of
just
a
that idea when this became a big topic of conversation during the summer, it became the new, when you watch the news and everybody repeats the same thing and you can tell that's what's been put out as the narrative that needs to be
Mhm.
discussed. It was very clear during the summer when they're like, well, whenever there's an off weekend, they go race overseas. That was a great power play to try to turn the narrative against. They get paid to show up. They get to enjoy the city that they're in, to your point, not a boatload of testing. They're walking away from they've already made their money before they even get there. And now there's less stress. And like you said, it front loads next season and being able to, if you made $1 million last year and you can make all of that in 3 appearances and 3 races, who wouldn't do that? That just doesn't make sense. That's such a good looking cat.
Yeah.
But
He can be kind of an asshole sometimes, but
the narrative needs to change. It's
Okay.
not about, and T. Anthony has a great question. Does Jade stay with KTM or do you think he leaves after this year? Because, he started with Honda, ironically, with Sexton, and he left. There's some scuttlebutt behind the scenes, but he left
why
Honda
can I not highlight it?
to go over to
Oh, there.
KTM. And I wonder where he goes next, or does he stay there? T. Anthony,
I've heard Sexton is hard to work with.
his
Very hard
dad's
to work
more
with.
difficult to work with than him. His dad is the main catalyst behind that. Unfortunately, from what I've heard, he's burnt through practice mechanics quite aggressively. I've heard. Now, again, I'm not starting hearsay. I'm just saying Jade left Honda to go to KTM, and then sure enough, Sexton came to KTM. I thought it was interesting that they had him pair up again. So I hate to hear that.
Interesting thing. Well,
and where does Master Pole end up, real quick, before I let you go, T. Anthony?
Gosh, Triumph.
You think so? Because I think they're. I mean,
Star,
Styles Robertson is
maybe
God.
Star with, but Star has so many guys.
That's what we need to talk about maybe next week or in a couple weeks, whenever you're ready to do another show, is where do people start to go? Because, Star always starts the season with what, 12 or 22 racers, and they're down to 3 by the time we got to SMX. Pro Circuit, you have to give them props. Their rider is pretty much, I know Master Pool is out with his finger for quite a while. And I know McAdoo's been out with injuries, but this is probably the best statistical year that Pro Circuits have, with Seth's success, obviously. And isn't it interesting, Johnny, when you look at Seth during Supercross, a lot of conversation. We went outdoors, didn't hear much about him, go to SMX and he's back. So you got PC. We know Seth's back.
It's like the Jordan Smith thing. Very technical guy, but wide open, not so much,
But what does PC look like next year? Because we know McAdoo's got a renewal, Seth's got a renewal, Marchbanks.
Oh, no, Coach, you tell me.
Well, Marchbanks, I think, will end up at Factory Cowie on the 450. So there'll be an opening there. Master Pool hasn't had the best of years. So who do they keep?
Tom for sure going to overseas with HRC Honda?
Yeah, Factory Honda. Yep, it's already done. And like he said, more money, less racing. It's exactly what you said earlier. Why would he not do it?
Well, and the ability to win. Well,
he was only given a 1-year deal here. He was given a 3-year deal over there. So where would you go? Race less, make more money, and have a 3-year deal versus stay here and get a 1-year deal and make less.
And you already won a couple championships. So there you go. But Coach, I don't mean to
no, it's all good.
Hit you off. Thank you, everybody that has joined the chat, and I appreciate all your opinions. And stay tuned for the video blog that's coming out for a little bit behind the gate of the night show. I'll be showing that, and then I'm gonna try to find some time for the analysis video here. But technically, I'm supposed to be on paternity leave here. I told my wife that I was taking time off to hang out with the baby and everything, and it seems like
put the technical one out next week. Just get one out this week. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can be with your son and your daughter, take care of your wife, and then next week get the other video out. We don't have any races.
Yeah, you got a good point, Coach.
Yeah, just
like
the brakes a little
before, as far as like always feeling sort of behind the 8 ball. If you're not somewhat improving, it's just kind of going down.
Yeah. But if you get a little bit more sleep, you'll put better quality in, and we'll get 2 good videos out instead of 2 half-ass ones because you're exhausted this week.
Because
it's hard.
Anyway, I appreciate you, Coach, especially being the mentor, with a lot of other stuff too.
No worries. Appreciate everybody. Thanks so much, Johnny, for making this happen. It's another season. It's a wrap. Hopefully we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Hell yeah.